Nigel Farage is here, and mentioned earlier on, this is not a political interview, it's a personal interview. Not for a job or anything like that, by the way. Nigel Farage is here. It's the person behind the politics. Leader, of course, of UKIP and member of the European Parliament for South East England. Nigel is a founding member of UKIP, which campaigns for the UK's withdrawal from the EU, and he's been an MEP since 1999. Where were you at school, and then how did you find yourself in politics?
I was at school at Dulwich College in South London, so my father spent an awful lot of money for me to get very few qualifications at all, and to leave at 18 and to go work as a clerk in an office in the City of London. And I worked through what was, for the South, the Thatcher boom. I know in parts of the North it wasn't like that, but London in the early 80s was a mega exciting place.
So it was about 81, 82, something like that?
I started in 82, and we had exchange controls had been got rid of, income tax rates had been slashed from 83% to 60%, and suddenly there was the birth of a new social phenomenon, and it was called the yuppie. And I looked at these people with their fast cars.
And big phones.
Fast women, very big phones, and a nightclubbing lifestyle. And I said to myself, Steve, at 18, I want to be a yuppie.
Really?
Yeah, no, absolutely, because it all seemed so exciting. All the old sort of fuddy-duddy world that the City of London had represented had been blown away. It was classless. All the boys from Essex were suddenly making a lot of money, and I wanted to be part of that. So that, to me, was where my life was going, and politics wasn't even a factor, really.
But that is kind of classic Tory thinking, isn't it?
It's classic thinking of young people who are ambitious and want to get on in life.
Yeah.
And that's not Tory, Labour or Liberal. That's just normal. You know, if you're 18 and you're hungry and you want to get on, you go to where the action is.
And so you did that and you enjoyed it, didn't you?
No, I loved it. Absolutely.
More than that.
I absolutely adored it.
Were you good at it?
Yeah, I was good at it, yeah. There's no question about it. I mean, by the time I was 21, 22, my contemporaries were just leaving university. But then I was earning really good money. I regret to say they're spending even more than that. But no, I did enjoy it. It was very exciting. And I'll tell you what it was. You suddenly felt that working in the city, in London, you were the centre of the universe. Because everybody, whether it was from China or South America or the States, they all wanted to come and live and work in London. And that was a very exciting thing.
Were you inspired by Mrs. Thatcher and by the Thatcher era?
Yes, I was. I thought the idea that you should get on in this country if you were able, and you should be able to achieve anything, regardless of your background, regardless of your accent, regardless of where you went to school, that was really liberating. The downside was that if you came from, say, South Yorkshire, and you saw the steel mills go and the coalfields close, it was a rough few years.
Did you think at that time that the Conservative Party was for you, or that, as many people even feel these days, there isn't a party for them?
I felt that the Conservative Party was for me, although in retrospect, taking a longer historical view, it wasn't the Conservative Party I was for, it was the Thatcher Project. I mean, look, we had a situation where half a dozen trade union leaders were running the country in the 1970s. We had 3-day weeks, we had power blackouts, which meant you couldn't do your homework, so there was an upside to it, you know. And the whole country was in a mess. And I thought this idea that we reform Britain, we modernise Britain, as I said, make London a global centre, yeah, I was 100% behind that.
And you've always been, you're a right-winger, are you not?
What does that word mean?
Well, you tell me.
I mean, economically, yes, I'm right-wing in the sense I believe in free markets. I don't think the state getting involved, over-regulating and over-taxing makes us richer, happier people. I generally think free enterprise is the way forward. But I'm not right-wing when it comes to issues like civil liberties. I mean, I would do anything to defend trial by jury, to defend innocence before guilt, to defend habeas corpus, which means they can't chuck us in a slammer for a long period of time without presenting a charge. Now, traditionally, they're values that you would have called liberal. And I think historically, 100 years ago, I'd have been a liberal, not a Tory.
Well, we're not going to make this a party political,
No,
but
sure.
Just another question is, do you feel that the other parties are occasionally borrowing your clothes?
Now, yes. Oh, yes. I mean, to begin with, I was considered a ranting lunatic, a crank, eccentric, gadfly.
Send in the clowns.
Send in the clowns. My favourite was fruitcake. I mean, I like that. You know? And they called us all these things, and yet now you listen to them, and in rhetoric, they're trying to ape the things that UKIP stands for.
Yeah, we're talking about immigration and what have you.
Yeah, I think I've been proved right on one or two things. And now you've got the Coalition and Labour saying we're going to get tough on immigration, whilst at the same time the door's still open.
All right, last political question. If there was a hung parliament at the next election, who would you cosy up with?
It doesn't matter to me. I can't tell them apart, really. They look the same, sound the same.
No, come on. No. I mean, who is the natural party?
At the moment, none of them. And I really mean that. I would, if we were in a position where we had a negotiation about forming a coalition, I would do it on the basis of achieving one major objective, and that objective would be for the British people to have a free and fair referendum so we can decide, are we part of a political union in Europe run by unelected bureaucrats we've never heard of, or are we going to divorce ourselves from that and have a simple free trade common market style agreement?
We're going to come back and find out what kind of Nigel likes. What is it, you know?
I thought we were talking beer and Skittles with him.
Well, we're going to talk that. And
Well, let's do that. I'm happy with that.
by the way, I mean, I'm seeing you smoking in the street, and you've got the cameras on you. You don't care, do you?
Well, I can't smoke anywhere else. They've banned it. They've stopped me. So if I don't smoke in the street, where on earth am I supposed to do it?
Stop smoking.
Well, what, I'm sorry. Who are you to tell me?
Don't
I'm
start.
sorry, Steve. What rights have you got?
We'll be right back.
Your mouth is a revolver.
We're back here with Nigel Farage. We're doing the person behind the politics. Are you ambitious? Would you like to be in a cabinet? Would you like to be a prime minister?
If I'd been ambitious, I'd have stuck in the Conservative Party. I'd have kept my mouth shut, not given vent to my views on things, become a backbencher and tried to climb the greasy pole of politics.
Where do you think you would have been if you'd have stuck to that now in 2013, do you think?
Well, in theory, I could have done very well, but in practice, my personality would have come through, which would have been, I find it very difficult if I see stupidities not to say so. So I think probably it wouldn't have ended very well.
OK, what do you like to do in your spare time? Do you tweet, for example?
Do a bit of tweeting, but do that 2 or 3 times a day, so I wouldn't call that a hobby.
But that's professional, isn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't call that a hobby.
You've got masses of followers, though, haven't you?
It's going well. It's building up, yeah. I try and sort of be slightly irreverent without pushing the line too far. I used to play a lot of golf, but I had a very bad accident a few years ago in a little aeroplane, which some may remember.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not really well enough to do that anymore.
OK.
I love going fishing. Absolutely adore that. Sea fishing mostly.
Oh, really?
Yep. I go with my sons, my brother. It's a big family thing. And it's not just the catching of them. It's actually the cooking of them, and it's the whole thing. It's the sort of man, the hunter-gatherer.
Don't throw them back?
No, they get banged on the head with me, I have to tell you. And what's wrong with that? Again, you see, we get this, oh, how awful, how could you kill something? Well, we all go to the supermarket, and we think our meat comes in cellophane packets. I also have to say, and this is not a joke, I genuinely enjoy the pub.
Yeah,
I genuinely enjoy the pub. You know,
Surely not. I never knew that about you,
honestly,
Nigel.
it's true.
Any particular real ale?
Yeah, I've never knowingly been photographed without a pint in my hand, I know. I mean, I live in the same village in Kent that I was born in and grown up in. And if I go in there on a Friday evening or a Sunday lunchtime or whatever it is, and I meet a range of people doing everything from working for the local council to retired rich businessmen. It's a complete cross-section of society. And you know what? It's really good fun.
Regardless of politics, you're a plain speaker and you don't use the language that politicians sometimes use. Is that deliberate?
Yeah, I mean, they talk in sort of verbal soup, don't they? You listen to a career politician, and I use that word advisedly, by which I mean one that went to a college in Oxford, did the same degree as everybody else, became a researcher at 23 and an MP at 30. And
talk about stereotyping.
Well, that's what most of them are like. You have a look. You have a look at the people running this country. Most of them have never had a job. They've never worked in the real world. They've all come from incredible privilege where money's never been an issue. And when they're interviewed, they tend to use very complex technical terms as if they want to show the average voter how clever they are.
But
and to me, I think that's all rubbish. I try and cut through it, and I try to simplify things as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, talk like a regular guy.
But really, that's what I am. I mean, I'm somebody who didn't do very well at school, went into the world of business, and then I changed career midway through because I thought something had gone wrong with the politics of our country.
And, OK, X Factor or Strictly?
Strictly. There's something about the charm of it, and I suppose, given that I'm nearing my own half-century, there's almost something nostalgic about the fact that on Saturday evenings, it's still Brucey.
Would you do it if asked?
I'm not really very good at dancing, but I generally give things a go, and I'm not afraid to make a fool of myself, so the answer is probably yes.
Are you, at this point, excited about the election in a couple of years' time? Are you worried? Because your party gains ground and loses ground in kind of an equal measure, doesn't it?
Well, all parties do. We all have good times and bad times. Companies have good times and bad times. I would even bet that your listenership has some good periods and some not so good periods.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Difficult to believe, I know. But,
crikey.
you know, these things do happen. What I'm excited about is that in 7 months' time, we have got a European election. No one's talking about it. They're all talking about the general election in 2015. But on May the 22nd next year, every voter in Britain gets the chance to vote in a European election. And I am very excited about that because I think we've got the potential to cause a real upset.
And talking of real upset, I mean, now America is back online and everything. I mean, it was the right wing, wasn't it, of the Republican Party that caused all of that problem?
Yeah, I mean, the Tea Party have very strong views. They think America's borrowing too much money. They think that Washington's got too much control over the states, and they're right.
Well, I was going to say, it all sounds a bit familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're
really?
right. There is a big difference there. I mean, UKIP is not the Tea Party, and I heard Ian Hislop the other day on Have I Got News for You, and he was asked, what's the Tea Party? He said, well, it's UKIP with guns.
Yeah.
We don't do guns in UKIP. We don't do God in UKIP. So we are very different. I think the Tea Party have a very, very good point. I think in this case, they pushed it a bit too far.
Listen, really nice to meet you. I was saying earlier on that this is one of several interviews that we're doing. Have we found out enough about you, do you think, Nigel?
We're just warming up, aren't we?
Well, we haven't asked about music. Taste in music.
OK. What can I play you as I go?
Music, not a huge part of my life, but I have to say, I do quite like... perhaps I'm a bit old-fashioned, but the New Romantics, the 1980s, Duran, all of that stuff.
Really?
Because it reminds me of being young, and there was something positive and new and exciting about it. And you know what? I've still got that positivity.
And the clothes?
Clothes, I either...
still got your frilly shirt.
I have to promise you, I never had one of the hairstyles.
But you've still got your red braces, haven't you, from when you were a yuppie in the city?
I'm hiding them at the moment.
Nigel Farage, everybody. Thank you very much. The person behind the politics, everyone. Thank you.